I will be the first one to say it. I love moments like these. Valuable information being provided in a way that allows for interpretation, meaning that you can chew on this information for weeks on end if you really wanted to. Even though they provide answers and pretty clearly defined ones at that, there's still enough wiggle room to look into it further if you wanted to. I love that. For me, it provides a personal enjoyment. Everyone's going to have their own kind of interpretation on the information being provided, and certain people are going to take extra steps to find out more. Then eventually you'll probably talk about it, and that circles within the community, and everyone just knows more about the situation in total. Like, yeah, you could have had a really big chapter or a really big kind of evolutionary moment where this was taken to an extreme, but there's something nice about the subtlety of it all, the finesse, the genuine heartbeat that just continues moving forward. Firstly, let's start with Kenjaku, because he provides some pretty interesting perspective on the quote-unquote never-ending culling games and how he's actually going to end it. There's a little bit of context here that I find very important, and him talking about an unreasonable binding vow that he has shouldered the burden of. To me, this sounds somewhat self-explanatory, even though it could be explored in a lot of different avenues, but realistically, the culling games continues forever. That's kind of its design. There is a way to stop it, and Kenjaku has shouldered that burden, but when it comes to binding vows or something conclusive, there's usually equal value in that representation. So if the culling games comes to an end, something else has to come to an end, and realistically, when you put those two things together, most likely has to do with Kenjaku's life, which at the moment I think is a pretty safe understanding of it. If he wants to end the culling games, he has to give up his own life, but it seems almost a little bit too easy. What I mean by this is that if he gives up the body, does that technically count? And then he just brain body hops into whatever else he can find. But then you ask yourself the question, does he want to give up Geto's body because it's allowed him to do pretty much everything he's doing now? Geto is kind of like that perfect vessel for him. I do like that this is here because it does provide an out and has been created in mind of the culling games, meaning that it wasn't added on later or Kenjaku implemented the rule of some kind. The only reason the culling games was created or designed this way is because he has this binding vow here, provides a concluder that he is shouldering. We don't know what that cost is, but one could assume it's of equal value, and it's either going to be very annoying or inconvenient, or most likely just straight up his death. I think we're definitely getting close to that moment. If you take in the context of Kenjaku's sacrifice and him trying to body hop somewhere else, it seems like he's trying to learn a lot of information. He seems very curious about the bath that is currently happening. He's questioning Urume's methods and the process of the bath in general, which makes it seem oddly relaxing. Urume's doing their thing, chefing everything up, preparing the bath, making sure things are running smoothly. Kenjaku seems playful. He's inquisitive. He's asking all of these questions and very curious about how things are working. I guess it was just a poor assumption of mine, but I thought he kind of knew how this worked. Or at least I thought he would be more interested to know how it worked before it actually happened. Maybe he was, and this is the first time he's visually able to see it. Maybe that's why, which explains a lot. But you can definitely tell there's a bit of clash between personalities, with Urume trying to concentrate, Kenjaku being a little bit too playful, and seemingly a little bit nervous when Sukuna arrives. It's odd to explain how it works or how it even feels, but maybe because of how unnatural Kenjaku's personality is within these moments makes him come off being nervous. Like he's trying to uplift the situation to play onto their good side so he doesn't step on anyone's toes by accident, which I think would make sense in front of the face of Sukuna, especially someone coming out of this bath and learning of what the process is. But then it doesn't really fit into Kenjaku's personality. So maybe it's more so just the natural weirdness of their personalities blending, and Kenjaku being the odd one out as he is. Now Urume is great because they are the ones that are handling the bath, the concept, method, the production of it, and it seems there is a lot that goes into it. With the way the bath has been described, it seems like Urume and Sukuna have repurposed it for different means. Nothing all too revolutionary, but more so aiming for a specific result, because the description that they give us is very accurate, but founded in something 1,000 years ago. I knew it was originally used as a ritual to transform vessels treasured as family family heirlooms into cursed tools in order to protect them from outsiders. A solution of cursed energy is created by grinding and straining organisms chosen in a Kodoku ritual. The vessel is then marinated for 10 months and 10 days. Urume is doing this their own way, but the way they describe vessels here is not in the sense of Yuji, but more so the tools. Just based off this description, however, I can see where the manipulation of the bath comes into play, especially with the 10 months and 10 days, which I believe is like a pregnancy reference within Japan. It's like a saying or something. Seemingly you could easily change out certain aspects of this method and apply it to an individual. It's a big risk, obviously, and it would most likely devour and kill any normal individual, but you have someone that is strong enough and willing enough, like Sukuna, for example, then you have a whole new thing in your hands. If you don't know what this bath is based after, the Kodoku ritual, I give you a little explanation of it, right? Japanese folklore, and is a derivative of Chinese Guyu magic, but the explanation for it and the process is a lot more simplified. So to create Kodoku, sorcerers would mix several insects in a jar and let them kill one another until only one survived. The fluids of the insect that survived would be used to poison an individual with a curse that would control them, cause them misfortune, kill them. The remaining insect could also be used as a sort of a luck charm, granting the one who performed the ritual great wealth. In return, the owner is supposed to feed the bug. Neglecting to do so would enrage the insect. If the owner does not equivalently repay the insect by placing all of his or her riches beside a road, plus interest in gold and silver, the insect would devour the homeowner. Therefore, this ritual could also be used as a death curse by giving the riches to an ignorant individual. The term Kodoku can also be applied to the spirit, which is the incarnation of this particular magic, which usually appears in the shape of a worm or other animal. Who else has a worm? Who else has gone through a very similar method of evolution? Toji. We know that Toji as a child was kind of within a similar situation, and while it wasn't a legitimate process of being within a bath, we knew that the amount of things that he killed within this very same spot, all of this cursed energy, all of the blood of the curses that he was killing was fueling back into him, and the representation of that very worm is he too went through a Kodoku ritual. I wouldn't be surprised that it works a little bit different for him because of the heavenly restriction, the breaking of it, the worm that was attached to him, etc. As much as this is the simplified process, it's basically applied the same way within the chapter. Urume does the same thing with curses. She strips them apart, freezes the core, and takes all the nutrients and drains it into the bath realistically. And the process is to get closer to evil and to fully submerge and suppress Megami. I don't really know the overall effects this has on Sukuna. Does it make him more powerful? Does it upgrade him? Does it make him more in tune within the vessel that he's within? It seems like it would be so, almost like his DNA is becoming one with the vessel and he's able to take over it. Very similar to the cannibalization aspects that's for his character, or the fact that he can change his face on a whim, because they do mention when he does come out the bath that it's better for him to use the face of Megami because he's fighting other sorcerers, which gives them a rise. An emotional and manipulation tactic within fighting, a perfect advantage. Once Sukuna is out, a lot of the attention is put onto him. He starts to draw it more and more, and very quickly to take advantage of this, Yorozu is brought up, who is the 1,000-year-old individual that seemingly has a crush on Sukuna and is currently within Megami's sister's body. Even though Sukuna does not care about Yorozu whatsoever, the act of destroying him will completely sink Megami inside of Sukuna, which makes me think the bath allows that process to be true. That would mean Sukuna fully integrates and becomes one with the body. So it's no longer just a vessel, it would be genuinely his. So that gives us a destination. We have to find Yorozu and they have to fight, which ultimately buys a little bit of time. We don't really know how strong Yorozu is or what the possibilities of their character is going to be, but I don't think it's going to be a point blank wash. I don't think Sukuna's going to rock up and devour them completely. There might be a bit of talking, a bit of questioning, even though he says he doesn't care, and that's when we jump back over most likely to Yuji and his group trying to figure out what to do next. Saving Angel should be on their list. Before we get to that Yorozu confrontation, however, we have to get through two characters that we've seen before, Ryu and Oro, and they are panicking. They sense this overwhelming energy coming from Sukuna, and before they know it, they're within his path. I think the clarity here is that Sukuna has not gone out of his way to hunt these two down. It seems the opposite, or at least for Ryu's case, he's here in front of Sukuna's path. He sorted out. I'm surprised he actually takes a hit from this, but I think in response, it's a great way to see Sukuna not only tweak his abilities on the fly with the actual output, but also his personality surrounding it. We're seeing more of Sukuna for the first time, so let's just see how menacing he truly is. Of course, he could always devour people in the first swipe, but let's sit on it a little bit more and get something like this, where he has a little bit of a conversation with Ryu before he eventually devours him again. Simple as that. Of course, we wouldn't get all of this information without leaving it in a really nice spot. The confrontation between Yorozu and Sukuna is here. This is going to be a pretty big fight. At least I would hope so. Maybe something more playful for Sukuna and a great showcase of Yorozu's true potential. Of course, I don't see Yorozu winning, but at this point, supplying more and more information from 1,000 years ago, what Sukuna was like, what the world was like, I'd love to know all of that. However, I wouldn't be surprised if we jump back towards Yuji's group, see the reaction, the response, and trying to pick themselves up once again and move forward towards Sukuna and Kenjaku and everyone else. I would love to hear all of your thoughts, all of your theories right now. Thank you.